welcome to the next video in this series I have on the operatic voice. Today we'll be discussing the soprano voice. As you know, as I've already said, I'm writing an opera that includes trans voices, and so I thought I'd do some intense research into traditional voice categories and make a comprehensive lecture series about my findings. This lecture series is going to be a comprehensive overview of classical singing voices and how gender comes into their categorization, especially in terms of tradition, and especially in traditional opera narratives, like with stock characters. Stock characters are those characters that are used in every narrative, like you get the hero, you get the heroine, you get the confidant, the ingenue, all that stuff. These are just stock characters that are used in lots of different opera narratives. Anyway, I'm interested in how to approach writing for opera singers today in a world where gender is not considered as binary as it was in the past, as it was when these terms were being assigned to voices. And like I said before, it's not like they were just assigned, these things evolved. Gender and society and events and all this are imbued and tied together. Just watch my videos on dialectics. Now, this isn't supposed to be like the holy grail of voice information, but it's a good general guide for myself and other composers out there wanting to know an in-depth overview of all the voices. And of course, it's absurd to categorise everyone's voice into these labels, but they do help us understand vocal capabilities better. And we must remember that people are people, and there will be exceptions to every rule and every category. So without further ado, let's get into this video about the soprano. A soprano is the highest female singing voice. Yes, already there's some contradictions because in the last video we looked at the treble, and sometimes the treble, boy, is often referred to as boy soprano. But the soprano is typically the highest female singing voice. Sopranos typically play the lead female character in opera, and many of the most famous female arias are sung by sopranos. Yeah. Within the larger category of soprano, there are a number of subdivisions that let composers specify the type of voice they want for a specific role. And these include soubrette or light soprano, coloratura, lyric soprano, spinto soprano, and the full-scale dramatic soprano. Perhaps the most famous soprano aria, or at least the one that best shows off the soprano voice, is the Queen of the Night's Act 2 aria Die Helle Rache from The Magic Flute. Then we also have Lucia from Donizetti's Lucia dell'Amour, and Violetta from Verdi's La Traviata. Let's look at the soubrette, the light soprano. A soubrette soprano refers to both a voice type and a particular type of character. Soubrette roles are generally found in comic operas or operettas. They usually portray attractive, youthful girls who are flirtatious, cheeky, and gossipy. They are often a chambermaid or confidant of the ingenue. Let's look at the vocal characteristics and range. A soubrette voice is light and sweet, with a bright timbre. The voice has a lighter vocal weight than other soprano voices, with no extensive coloratura. A soubrette's vocal range extends approximately from middle C, C4, to high D, D6. Can I hit a D6? C5, D5? No, probably not. Anyway, the tessitura of the soubrette tends to lie a bit lower than the lyric soprano and spinto soprano. Anyway, many younger singers start out as soubrettes, but may be reclassified as another voice type when they grow older and their voices mature. Soubrettes typically mature into either a lyric soprano, a lyric coloratura soprano, or a coloratura mezzo-soprano. Existing soubrette parts include Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro, Mozart, 1784. Famous soubrette singers. Let's think about them. So apparently it is rare to find true soubrettes singing in major opera houses, as their voices are typically unable to carry over larger orchestras in larger halls. I'm probably a soubrette. Often lyric coloratura and mezzo-sopranos are cast in soubrette roles, especially in the early part of their singing careers. This does not mean that these singers are soubrette sopranos, but it does mean they can play soubrette roles. Maybe I'm a coloratura soubrette. Coloratura soprano, A4 to C6. Hello. A coloratura soprano is a type of operatic soprano voice that specialises in performing agile runs, leaps and trills. The term coloratura also refers to the elaborate ornamentation of a vocal melody in operatic singing, and coloratura is particularly found in vocal music and especially in operatic singing of the 18th and 19th centuries. A famous coloratura soprano role is the Queen of the Night in Mozart's The Magic Flute. Again, it's that piece, isn't it? This role has a high range and requires the singer to perform elaborate ornamentation and embellishment, including running passages, staccati, and trills. Within the coloratura category, there are roles written specifically for lighter voices known as lyric coloraturas and others for larger voices known as dramatic coloraturas. Categories within a certain vocal range are determined by the size, weight and colour of the voice. Let's look at the lyric coloratura soprano and soprano leggero. Leggero?
Leggero.
A very agile, light voice with a high upper extension capable of fast vocal coloratura. Lyric coloraturas have a range approximately from middle C, or C4, to high F, F6. Such a soprano is sometimes referred to as a soprano leggero,
Leggero.
if her vocal timbre has a slightly warmer quality. The soprano
Leggero.
also typically does not go as high as other coloraturas, peaking at a high E, that's E6. Bel canto roles were typically written for this voice, and a wide variety of other composers have also written coloratura parts. Baroque music, early music and Baroque opera also have many roles for this voice. And existing works, which we should look at, is the role of Ariel in The Tempest by Thomas Adès, and Titania, I think it's pronounced Titania, I looked it up, in A Midsummer Night's Dream by Benjamin Britten. Can we ask Shakespeare? Probably not. Now, the lyric soprano roles typically include ingenues and other sympathetic characters in opera. The lyric soprano is a warm, rich voice with a bright, full timbre that can be heard over an orchestra. This is the most common female singing voice. The range is generally higher than that of a soubrette, but not so high as a coloratura soprano. Lyric sopranos have a range from approximately middle C, C4, to high D, D6. See how there's some overlap between the ranges of these different subtypes of soprano. Many of opera's most famous roles were written for this voice type. These include Musetta in La Bohème by Puccini, Pamina in The Magic Flute, Mozart, 1791. Michela in Carmen, Bizet, 1875. And Bess in George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, Porgy, 1935. Now, lyric soprano also has subcategories. The soprano voice just keeps going and going and going. So there's apparently a tendency to divide lyric sopranos into two groups, light and full. That might be a light coloratura soubrette. A light lyric soprano has a bigger voice than a soubrette, but still possesses a youthful quality. There are a wide variety of roles written for this voice, and they may sing soubrette, baroque, and other light roles as well. Maybe I should sing baroque music. I've been looking for stuff to sing. A full lyric soprano, on the other hand, has a more mature sound than a light lyric soprano and can be heard over a bigger orchestra. This more mature sound may make a full lyric less suitable for some of the lighter roles. Occasionally, a full lyric will have a big enough voice that she can take on much heavier roles using volume in place of vocal weight, and this is done when a more lyric timbre is desired in an otherwise heavier role. Spinto Soprano now. I've done nothing but drink coffee all day. As spinto sopranos have both lyric and dramatic qualities, they are suitable for wide ranges of roles, from lyric roles such as Michaela in Carmen and Mime in La Bohème to Verdi heroines like Leonora in Il Trovatore or La Forza del Destino, Ada or Puccini's Madame Butterfly. Oh yes, Madame Butterfly. Oh, that's such a good one. I need singing lessons so much. And I feel like I'm mispronouncing all these words and people can be like, you should not pronounce that. Have you not seen these operas? The Spinto repertoire includes many roles written by Verdi, by the various verismo composers, and by Puccini. Here's a definition of verismo composer. Some of these roles are extremely popular with opera audiences. I can imagine. Oh, I love Puccini's Madame Butterfly. Oh, I want to sing it again. You would not put me in Puccini at all. I'm still a treble. Certain Wagnerian heroines such as Elsa, Elizabeth and Sieglinde are also sung by spinto sopranos. The spinto repertoire includes many roles from the Italian romantic tradition of Verdi and Puccini, including Sio Sio San, Chio Chio San. Is it Chio? Yeah, it's Chio. Sorry. Including Chio Chio San in Puccini's Madame Butterfly, 1904, apparently, and Desdemona in Verdi's Othello in 1887. I've played Desdemona in Othello, but the acting version, not the singing version. The spinto soprano is an uncommon voice type. The fact that the spinto soprano is uncommon means that parts that are ideal for their voices are often performed by singers from other classifications, and more than a few lyric sopranos have damaged their voices singing heavier spinto roles. And let's have a look at why, because what you have to do with a spinto is you have to push it. I'm going to talk about that now. A spinto soprano range extends from approximately middle C, C4, to high D, D6. Again, there's crossovers between these ranges. They're pretty much all the same. So spinto means pushed in Italian. The spinto soprano has a vocal weight between lyric and dramatic and is capable of handling large musical climaxes in opera at moderate intervals. A spinto soprano, also lyrico spinto, spinto lyric soprano, or pushed lyric, has the high notes and, I suppose, the lightness of a lyric soprano, but it can be pushed to achieve dramatic climaxes without strain. This type of voice may possess a somewhat darker timbre than the average lyric soprano. And so when you get singers who aren't spinto sopranos and they're like lyric sopranos or something else and they sing spinto roles and they push, you can understand how they can damage the voice. How does it push the voice? Well, it generally uses a squillo technique, to slice through the sound of a full orchestra rather than singing over the orchestra like a true dramatic soprano would. Squillo is Italian for ring and is a trumpet-like broad peak in the vocal spectrum that resonates in such a way it can cut through the sound of an orchestra. I did talk briefly about the squillo in the when we looked at the treble voice as well, so if you want to, refresh your memory of that, you can. I only spoke about it briefly though. Now, apparently, according to Wikipedia, apparently, this perception of the squillo thing is caused by the presence of a peak in the 2 to 5 Hz frequency range, to which the human ear is particularly sensitive. That would, to me, imply that's the resonant frequency of the ear. Why am I talking about this? You don't want to know about this. 2 to 5 Hz. Kilohertz. Oh no, it's 2 to 5 kilohertz. Did I say that? This perception is caused by the presence of a peak in the 2 to 5 kilohertz frequency range to which the human ear is particularly sensitive. Now let's look at the dramatic soprano. The dramatic soprano often plays the heroic, often long-suffering, tragic woman of the opera. Wagnerian sopranos usually play mythic heroines. So let's look at the vocal characteristics and range now. Dramatic, or soprano robusto, is the big soprano voice. This is a powerful, rich, emotive voice that can be heard over a full orchestra. It generally has a lower tessitura than the other sopranos, as well as a darker timbre. Thicker vocal folds in dramatic voices usually, but not always, mean less agility than lighter voices, but a sustained, fuller sound. I'm definitely not a dramatic soprano. Dramatic sopranos have a range from approximately low A, A3, to high C, C6. Some dramatic sopranos, known as Wagnerian sopranos, have an exceptionally big voice that can assert itself over a large orchestra of more than 80 or even 100 pieces. These voices are substantial, often denser in tone, extremely powerful, and, ideally, evenly balanced throughout the vocal registers. Evenly balanced throughout the vocal registers. To some extent you are just born with it, aren't you? Roles for the dramatic soprano really came to the fore in the Romantic era. I can imagine, but they must have existed before then. Were they just shunned by the Of course they were, women didn't exist. I forgot. Roles for the dramatic soprano really came to the fore in the Romantic era, with Wagner particularly writing a good variety of dramatic soprano parts. These include the magnificent Brunhilde in his epic Ring Cycle, as well as Elizabeth in Tannhäuser. Tannhäuser, there's an umlaut on that A, it's followed by U. Tannhäuser.
Tannhäuser.
1845. Isolde in Tristan und Isolde, 1865. And Sieglind in Die Walküre. Successful Wagnerian sopranos are rare, you can imagine, and often Wagnerian roles are performed by Italianate dramatic sopranos.
Italianate.
Let's look at the dramatic coloratura soprano now. You still with me? Good. The voice of a coloratura soprano has great flexibility in high virtuosic passages, yet it also has great sustaining power comparable to that of a full spinto or dramatic soprano. Basically, this voice type must be able to convey dramatic intensity as well as flexibility. This is a rare vocal fact, as thick vocal cords are needed to produce the large dramatic notes, and you can imagine that thick vocal cords lessen the flexibility and acrobatic abilities of the voice. So to have both is quite impressive. Dramatic coloraturas have a range of approximately low B, that's B3, to high F, F6. Roles written specifically for this kind of voice include the more dramatic Mozart and bel canto female roles in early Verdi. For example, Donna Anna and Don Giovanni, Mozart. Summary. Don't go away. I'm going to summarise what we've looked at today. So in this video we've discussed the following: coloratura soprano, lyric coloratura soprano, and soprano leggero. Leggero.
Leggero.
Spinto soprano, dramatic coloratura soprano. Stay tuned for more research into the operatic singing voice. Now, all voice types in this video have been typically female. They are. Traditionally, the soprano is female. In the next video, we'll explore voice ranges that cross the boundaries of gender more. We'll be focusing on the mezzo-soprano. I'll see you there. This lecture series is going to be a comprehensive... famous coloratura.